and welcome to the Guitar Effect. My name's Rob. In this video I'm going to be making a comparison between the NUX Trident and the NUX Cerberus. But it's going to be slightly different than that from any other video I've ever done, because there's not going to be any guitar playing in this video. So if you're someone who likes to kind of watch people shred or whatever, this is not the video for you. I'm going to compare these two really quite excellent multi-effects and amp modeling units to show what the differences between them are, and if you're thinking about getting either one, it might inform you about which one would be best for you. But before I get into that, as always, I'll ask you to please like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you've been kept up to date every time I put out a new video. So, how to get started is I'm going to just talk about why I'm making the comparison, right? So, NUX were one of the first brands that ever reached out to me to... Actually, I reached out to them, I'll tell a lie, to demo gear. I had the Cerberus maybe 2 years ago. I've actually bought the Cerberus 3 times, it's that good. I've bought it, thought I didn't need it, bought it again, thought I didn't need it, and now I've bought it a 3rd time because I've realised it's the perfect unit for what I want this unit to do. So having done like a series of demos about the Cerberus, by the way, I will put those demos up here. So the reason I'm putting them up here is because it's a playlist, by the way. There's multiple videos about the Cerberus because it's such a powerful unit. The reason I'm doing that is because it doesn't benefit the way this video is going to go to do audio demos of both. I'm simply going to talk about features of both, okay? So the reason I'm making this video is, like I said, I've bought the Cerberus a number of times, and I even recently, when the Trident came out, I reached out to NUX, and asked them to send me the Trident for review because I was such a fan of the Cerberus, which they agreed to do. And I made a series of videos about the Trident, which I should also put up here. Again, 2 playlists, 1 on each. If you want to see what they sound like, and what the use cases are for both of them, go watch those videos. I go into great depth about what the capabilities and the sounds that are available from both are. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about comparing the 2 of them and what I think the 2 of them are good at, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the Trident, because it's the newer one, right? It's the kind of the big brother. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like cut to a different shot in a minute where I'm going to move over to one side and I'm going to put the graphic of the Trident up on screen beside me and then talk about its benefits. So just give me 1 sec. Okay, so this is the NUX Trident, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down because it's easier for me to do it this way. I'm going to stick a graphic of it up here, okay? So, but I'm going to, while I talk about the graphic that's here, I'm going to look at this unit here. So what the Trident is following the kind of success of the Cerberus doesn't have amp modeling on board. It has IOR modeling, but not amp modeling. So I think quite naturally the next thing for them to do was to take the Cerberus and upgrade it to include amp modeling, right? So if you look at the Cerberus, first of all, you can see it's 1 row of foot switches and a lot of knobs, right? There's one really, really small screen here, but there's no digital readout. So the Trident is the Cerberus with an extra row of switches, right? An extra row of switches, and I'm going to talk about what they are now, right? So how this whole thing works is there's multiple amp models inside, okay? You choose the amp model you want per preset, for example. And then you combine it with its modulation effects and its delay and reverb effects. Now, what's different about the way NUX built both of these units is the controls for all of these things are on the front of the unit in the form of knobs. So there's no menu, well, there is menu diving on the Trident particularly, but the difference with both of these units compared to other multi-effects units is that the controls are all done with knobs on the top. So what the Trident does is it gives you amp modeling, right? And it combines that amp modeling with the same type of effects that are on the Cerberus. So really what it does is it takes the idea of the Cerberus, which is a multi-effects unit, and then builds an amp modeler into that. But it leaves it in the same physical format really as the Cerberus, right? So to talk about what the benefits of the Trident are. So first of all, it's the amp modeling, right? So there's no need to use an amplifier. It's this amp and cabs model in this unit. And then the second benefit of that is that the controls for those amp models are all on the front of the unit itself. So you don't have to menu dive to change the EQ, the gain, the bass, treble. It's all right there in the front of the unit, right? The next benefit is compared to other models, not compared to the Cerberus, but compared to other models, the controls for the modulation and delay, reverb and effects, which is like pitch shifting and compression and filters and stuff like that. That's all on the front as well. You can edit that in the front without menu diving. Then the other benefit of the Trident is that you have both preset foot switches and effects foot switches within each preset. So you can select a sound and then within that sound turn on or off the reverb, delay, modulation and effects without leaving that preset. That's really important. Then the last benefit of the Trident is that there's also a boost foot switch. Now, it says boost on the unit, but what the boost actually is a combination of selectable boost or overdrive pedals per preset. So what this allows you to do, and that's all the benefits. Oh yeah, and then it also has XLR outs on the back. It has an effects loop, it has stereo XLR outs, stereo unbalanced outs, and it has an expression pedal in, right? So the connectivity is really, really good. The only difference between connectivity on this and the Cerberus is the two XLR outs aren't present on the Cerberus, okay? So what you would use this for, in my opinion, is if you're either someone who plays on in-ears at gigs, or more importantly, in my opinion, you're not really a big gigger, right? You play guitar at home for your own enjoyment and you want an all-in-one solution to do your amp modeling, to do your effects, to do your overdrives, and to get all your gain sounds from your amps, which is really important. And I'll come on to why that's important in a minute. Then I think the Trident is a fantastic choice, right? It's really tactile. And as compared to other modelers, if you're someone who doesn't like menu diving, it has really, really good software that you can use if you want to go down that route. But just from editing on the front of the unit, the Trident is a brilliant all-in-one solution. The downside of the Cerberus, in my opinion, or the Trident, I should say, in my opinion, and why I went for a Cerberus are two things. One is there's no distortion pedals. They may add them in an update, but right now there's only overdrive and boost pedals in the overdrive section of the Trident, right? And the reason for that is I think there's such a vast array of amplifiers that they intend that you would get all your gain sounds from choosing the right amplifier, which makes sense. So there's no distortion pedals, and also there's no controls on the top of the unit. I'm just trying to get this to be in the right place. There's no controls on the top of the unit anywhere for overdrive or distortion. So this is not intended to be something where you have a clean sound or a dirty sound and you add overdrive or distortion. The intention here is that you're getting the right gain level you want from your amplifier, and then you're adding boost to it. So say, for example, you're doing something where you're going from a clean sound to a heavily distorted sound. I think the intention here is you would have one preset with a clean amp and then one preset with a heavily distorted amp. In either one of those presets, you may want to add an overdrive, and you can do that with this boost switch. This switch? Yeah, this boost switch, right? But what you can't do with this is have a clean sound and then use a overdrive, or sorry, you can't use it as a distortion pedal to push that into a heavy sound. You have to change amps, right? That's the way this is intended and designed. Now, the other thing about this unit is everything's digital. So the amps are digital and all the effects are digital and all the control, is digital. That's one major difference between this and the Cerberus. The Cerberus's overdrive and distortion are analog, okay? So that's the Trident. So who I think the Trident is for is the person who wants all of their amp modeling, effects in one unit. And specifically, we want to go down this route. I think it's for someone who really likes tactile control over those things. So as opposed to menu diving, everything is controlled via knobs on the front. And in that way, I think this is a standout unit, right, in terms of design. Not versus a Cerberus, but versus the competitors. If you're a tactile person who likes to turn knobs to change sound, this is brilliant, okay? What I'm going to do now is talk about the specific features and benefits of the Cerberus, okay? So the first thing about Cerberus is the Cerberus, it has analog overdrive and distortion. So analog overdrive and distortion is the first benefit of a Cerberus. Second benefit is the controls of that analog and distortion are on the front of the unit for you to be able to tweak right there, right? The third thing is the Cerberus has MIDI in and out, which allows you with an external switching device to change channels on an amplifier that you can use the Cerberus to control. The fourth thing is it has an effects loop to allow you to place either an external pedal or the preamp of your amplifier in the right place in the signal chain. The fifth thing is it has the capacity on the second output, or both outputs if you prefer, to add an IOR to be able to run it direct. And then the fifth benefit is the switching on the Cerberus is just really, really, really intelligently thought out. You have the switches on the unit, but you can also add an external 2-button foot switch to be able to control things like turn on or off the reverb, turn on or off the modulation effects, turn on or off the boost. There's also a second boost, which is a pre-assigned volume boost that you can assign with the software for the Cerberus. So you can have a boost pre your overdrive and distortion for more gain, or you can have a second boost pre or post your overdrive and distortion for your volume. So the Cerberus, in terms of switching capability and in terms of analog overdrive and distortion, is like just an amazing unit. Okay, so that's the benefits, right? So the last thing I'm going to talk about is I would choose a Cerberus. And the reason I would choose a Cerberus is because I gig live and I use an amplifier and a cab on stage live, right? And that's why I would use this, because I don't use amp modelers live. I use a amp and cab on stage, right? If you use modelers, then the Trident is the way to go. But if you want to use an amp and cab on stage, I think the Cerberus is a brilliant solution. Okay, so there you go. That's the in-depth features of both, right? At this point, I want to reiterate, I have literally scratched the surface in terms of describing what they both do. Go back to the playlist I shared at the beginning of the video if you want to actually hear what they both sound like and what they do. That's all covered off extensively in those videos I've made about both. Now I want to take a second to just talk about NUX's design philosophy on both of these units. I think what NUX is doing in both of these situations is exceptional. No one else is making a modeler like the Trident, right? I'm just going to grab it here. The fact that it has a tiny screen and it's not a touch screen, that's the first thing. It's all about the screen is there to display stuff to you that you need to know at any one point in time, and then everything else is controlled with knobs in the front. I don't think there's any modeler out there that does this, and it does it really well. It's a pleasure to interact with if you want to use amp modeling, and I think NUX's design philosophy on this is individual and different, and I think it should be commended for it. I think this is a brilliant piece of kit if you want to use amp modeling, right? Same thing applies to the Cerberus. Look how small it is, and it's so powerful. Same thing, it's all super rugged. There's a tiny little screen and it's all knobs in the front. I love that about this. Really think this is a brilliant unit. And then they've thought about, like, there's a USB editor that's really good. It's got all the ins and outs it needs, including MIDI. It doesn't have XLR outs, but like I said, you'd be using this with an amp, so why would you need XLR outs? And in that respect, I think this is brilliant. The last thing is, the Cerberus currently on Thomann is 309 and the Trident is 399. And I think for everything extra you get on the Trident, if you want to use a full amp modeling solution, the Trident is very, very affordable. The thing about this is the Cerberus. The Cerberus has been out for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years, something like that. It can be had for peanuts secondhand. So I've bought this 3 times, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, and every time I buy it like €20 cheaper. So this time I bought this for €100 exactly, used, and it's in perfect nick because it's built so well, and it just keeps going. And I was going to build a pedal board for my Naughties tribute band using the Trident, and when I did, I discovered it was actually the Cerberus that I needed, because I run an amp. So in that respect, for me, the Cerberus wins. But I want to stress that that doesn't mean it's any sort of bash or anything on the Trident. The Trident is brilliant at what it does, it's just not what I need a piece of NUX gear in this situation for. This does it better. And I think, again, NUX should be commended for not discontinuing this when they made a Trident, but realising that the 2 different things that serve 2 different purposes and serve them both extremely well. So kudos to NUX, who, by the way, sent me the Trident for free and I was allowed to keep it. They didn't pay me to make any of the videos I made about it, but they've never sent me a Cerberus. I have bought the Cerberus, like I said, 3 times, and the reason I have is because NUX make really well engineered, thought out stuff. And I think as opposed to really amazing tones, I know what tones I'm trying to get, I know what equipment I need to get them. It's the build quality and the functionality that wins me over on gear, and NUX does brilliant build quality and functionality. Even, I'm going to give an example, their twin series stomp boxes have a remote in on the back of them. So if you use a loop switcher for your main pedal board like I do, you can put that in one loop and turn either effect on and off remotely, which is a huge thing. I'll be making a demo about the Ace of Tone, which I've sent me out recently, which again is a brilliant pedal. But back to this, yeah, Cerberus wins for me, but the Trident's also a fantastic piece of kit. So Thank you to NUX for sending me Trident, I'll mention that again. And that's kind of it. If you stay at home or you gig on in-ears, look at the Trident. It's a different way of going about modelling. If you use an amp, and even if you have a pedal board but you want a backup rig, especially if you're running a pedal platform, this can do it all. The only drawback of this is it doesn't have a screen big enough to show preset names, so you can only use a limited number of presets, or you literally forget what you're doing, right? So for example, with my originals band, I always run 4 presets for song for like 13 songs, right? I use the HX effects to do that. Couldn't use this because it doesn't have a big enough display for me to know where I am, like what part of what song I'm in, right? So I will use this for my noughties band, where there's like 7 different sounds I need, and I know I can remember where they all are, and for that, this is brilliant. It's the only drawback of this is the small display. So there you go. NUX Cerberus versus NUX Trident. Both brilliant effects units for me. The Cerberus is what I need. So there you go. If you've watched as far, as always, I say thank you for watching. And if you have enjoyed and you found it useful, hit like and subscribe because it helps the channel out massively. And that's it. I'll see you in another video again soon. Thanks very much. See you later.